Leeway's voice hardened as he told him that anyone who dared lay a hand on Amara, or even thought of harming her, might as well be striking at him directly, and that those who hurt him, or the ones he held dear, never ended well. He told Kevin he had left the love bite on purpose, knowing he would come rushing in to confront him, driven by nothing but his wounded male pride. Kevin trembled, struggling to explain himself, but Leeway cut him off, stating that pretending to like Amara, faking closeness, and staging confrontations while knowing full well that he had been sent to harm her had crossed a line. He asked Kevin if he truly understood what that would cost him, his scholarship, and his future. The words broke Kevin's resistance. Dropping to his knees before Leeway, he confessed that he had no intention of losing his scholarship, because it was all he had. He admitted that May and James had approached him, forced him to accept their money, and threatened him when he hesitated. He explained that he had not touched the money, that it was still sitting untouched, and that he had only agreed because they had threatened to ruin his scholarship if he refused. His voice shook as he insisted it had never been his intention, and that he was not trying to hurt Amara. Leeway remained silent, his piercing eyes fixed on him. Kevin pleaded, promising he would terminate the arrangement immediately, return the money, and do whatever it took as long as Leeway spared his scholarship. He vowed to stay away from Amara, never even looking her way again. Leeway told him to stand, and Kevin scrambled to his feet. Looking straight into his eyes, Leeway commanded that he must ensure the money was sent back and that May and James were told their plan had failed. He added that Kevin was to stay away from Amara entirely, never coming within an inch of her, and warned that if he dared break that command, he would not only lose his scholarship, he would have his entire life destroyed. Kevin, his voice trembling, promised to obey, swearing never to repeat his mistake. Leeway dismissed him coldly, telling him he could leave, and Kevin rushed out of the office. Later that night, Amara was still in the lab working on her research, determined to finish early so she could submit ahead of time. Focused and driven, she kept glancing at the clock, realizing it was growing late. A text from Leeway lit up her phone, asking what she was doing. Not wanting to worry him, she replied that she was studying in bed. Meanwhile, Leeway stood in his office by the window, his eyes fixed on the medicine department. The lights in the lab were still glowing, and he chuckled to himself, knowing she had lied. She was still there, immersed in her work, while telling him otherwise. Returning to his chair, he sat down, unwilling to leave for home until she was finished. His eyes drifted to the invitation card Ming had handed him, and he found himself contemplating it again. Ming's words echoed in his mind, urging him to face Yan, to speak to her directly and make things clear. The gathering, he knew, might be his only chance. Amara, exhausted, eventually decided she had done enough for the night. Halfway through her research, she checked her phone again and realized how late it had become. She began packing up, ready to leave and finish the rest the following day. But as she walked out, she froze in surprise. Leeway was standing there, waiting, his eyes fixed firmly on her. She panicked a little as she slowly walked toward where he was standing. He mentioned that he thought she was in bed studying and pointed out that the lab hardly looked like her dorm room. Amara remained silent for a moment before explaining that she had not wanted to worry him, adding that she had a lot to do and promising him that she was being careful, just as he had told her to be. Leeway, still keeping his gaze fixed on her, asked if she had eaten. When she shook her head, he pulled out his black card and handed it to her. Amara hesitated, staring at it as if uncertain whether to accept it, but Leeway insisted, reminding her that he knew her student allowance had not yet come in and that she could use the card to get food at the cafeteria until it did. She accepted it reluctantly, and Leeway told her they should leave and that he would walk her back. Amara, a little stunned, pointed out that people would see them together. Leeway simply told her that he would walk behind her so it would not appear as though they were together. She nodded with a small smile, and the two of them left the lab together. Amara walked slowly, while Leeway followed behind, matching her pace. She smiled to herself, thinking about how unexpectedly sweet and protective he was. On purpose, she slowed her steps even more, prolonging the walk to the dormitories. Feeling his presence close behind her made her heart flutter, but it also made her ache a little that they could not walk side by side like a normal couple, holding hands openly. She glanced back, and when their eyes met, his face remained composed and unreadable, yet to her, the entire moment felt deeply romantic. She wondered if he was having the same thoughts. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message. She checked it and found a text from him telling her to watch where she was going. She giggled at the bluntness of his words before sneaking another glance back at him. Leeway continued to watch her as she deliberately walked slowly, aware that she had chosen the longer route back. He did not mind. As long as he was able to protect her, he was willing to let her draw out the moment. He had promised himself that he would never fully open his heart, but standing there, trailing after her, he realized she was breaking through his walls effortlessly, like a force he could not resist. She was seeping into his heart, filling the spaces he had kept guarded, and he could neither control nor suppress it. He did not know why their paths had crossed, but he hoped it was something good. For both of them. He wondered if the day would come when he would reveal his true self to her and show her everything he had hidden away. His greatest fear was that she might see him as a monster, but deep down he wished she would understand that everything he did had reasons he believed were justified. A vibration from his phone pulled him from his thoughts. He looked at the screen and saw a message from her, letting him know she had arrived. He immediately stopped walking and replied, telling her to go ahead while he stayed behind to make sure she entered safely. Amara smiled at the text, her heart warm, and walked into the female dormitory residence with a bright smile still lingering on her face. Leeway remained outside, watching until she disappeared completely from his sight. Only then did he finally turn and leave. The following day, Momo met up with Jan at a nearby cafe. Jan sat across from her, her eyes trailing over Momo as though she were studying her carefully. She complimented her attire and overall look. Momo simply smiled and remarked that Jan's own style was far more elegant and beautiful. Curiosity tugging at her, Momo asked why Jan would want to be her friend in the first place, pointing out that someone like her surely belonged among people on her own level, not with someone like her. Jan only smiled, gently taking Momo's hands in hers, and explained that she saw everyone equally. To her, Momo seemed kind and pure, and she found herself naturally drawn to people like that. Momo returned the smile, admitting she felt the same. Jan's expression shifted as she admitted that she had always had bad luck when it came to friendships. She shared that her last friend had secretly developed feelings for her boyfriend, had gone behind her back, and pursued him. Momo sat stunned at the revelation, then told her that anyone capable of that was never a true friend to begin with. Jan squeezed her hands again, saying that now that they were friends, she considered Momo like a sister. She added that she hoped Momo would never betray her the same way, even if her boyfriend one day happened to show interest in her. Momo quickly promised that she would never do such a thing, and insisted it was foolish for women to fall out over men. She told Jan that women should stand together and support one another, and that men were not worth breaking valuable friendships for. Jan nodded, agreeing with her words. Reaching into her bag, Jan pulled out an invitation card and handed it to Momo, explaining that she was inviting her to a small get-together with her and some close friends, and that she hoped Momo would come. Momo's eyes lit up with excitement as she accepted the card, promising that she would definitely attend. She asked if she would be allowed to bring someone along, and Jan nodded, assuring her she was free to bring anyone she wished. Momo thanked her with a wide smile, and Jan stood, saying she had somewhere else she needed to be before leaving the cafe. Momo remained seated, holding the invitation card in her hands, smiling to herself in disbelief that she was being given the chance to hang out with Yan's circle. Later that day, when Momo returned to her dorm room, she found Amara sitting at her desk, deeply focused on her studies. Walking over with a playful grin, she announced that she had a surprise. Amara raised her head and teasingly asked if she had finally managed to find herself a rich boyfriend. Momo scoffed at the remark before placing the invitation card on Amara's desk, proudly telling her that Yan had invited her to the get-together and that she was planning to take Amara with her. Amara immediately refused, saying she couldn't go because she needed to study. Momo dismissed the excuse, insisting that Amara was always studying and needed a break to experience new things. She grabbed her hand and begged her to come along, saying it would not be fun without her there. Amara sighed and finally gave in, saying she would go, but warned Momo not to complain if her presence turned out to be boring. Momo laughed excitedly and promised that she wouldn't dare complain, sealing her lips with an exaggerated gesture before rushing to her closet to find something to wear. That evening, Leeway prepared himself for the get-together. Before leaving, he checked his phone and sent Amara a message, letting her know he wouldn't be around to walk her that evening. He reminded her to be extra careful and to make sure she returned to her dorm before it became too dark. With that, he grabbed his car keys and stepped out. His car pulled up to the venue where the gathering was being held. They had booked a private karaoke room. Walking inside, he found Ming, Yan, and another of Yan's friends already seated and waiting. The moment Yan spotted him, she quickly stood and walked over, smiling brightly as she told him how happy she was that he had come. She admitted she had thought he might not show up, then reminded him of their old karaoke nights, saying how much fun they used to have and how she hoped tonight would feel the same. Leeway, not wanting to come across as cold, replied that he hoped so as well. Before Yan could pull him away toward the others, he stopped her and said he wanted to talk to her. Yan smiled, agreeing without hesitation, and the two of them walked toward a quiet corner of the room where they sat down together. Yan kept her eyes on Leeway, anticipation in her expression, as she waited to hear what he wanted to say, silently hoping it was something good. Leeway broke the silence first, his tone low as he expressed regret if he had come across as rude or cold in the past. Before he could continue, Yan quickly reassured him, insisting she never saw him that way and that she understood where he was coming from. Just as he was about to speak again, the door opened, drawing his attention. Amara and Momo walked in together, and his eyes immediately locked on Amara. Surprise flickered across his face as his gaze lingered on her, following her every step until she sat down. Yan noticed instantly that his focus had shifted away from her. She glanced toward the newcomers and, misreading the direction of his attention, assumed that he was looking at Momo. With a smile, she explained that she had invited Momo and allowed her to bring a friend, remarking that Momo seemed like a genuinely good person. Leeway didn't respond. His eyes remained fixed solely on Amara, who, feeling the weight of his stare, quickly looked away. She leaned closer to Momo, whispering that she hadn't expected Leeway to be there. Momo reassured her, explaining that he was close friends with Yan and often part of their circle, adding lightly that here he wasn't the university director, just another guest. Yan's friend, who had been observing the newcomers with curiosity, suddenly spoke up, boldly revealing that Yan and Leeway were not just close friends, but childhood sweethearts, a couple who had endured much together. The words pierced Amara's heart like a blade. She quietly asked again if it was true, and the girl confirmed without hesitation, explaining that Yan had waited 10 long years for Leeway, and that they had recently reunited. Amara's chest tightened, her thoughts spiraling. Kevin's words echoed in her mind, his warning that someone like Leeway would never choose her when women of greater beauty and status surrounded him. She glanced toward Jan, her flawless elegance undeniable. Every detail about her radiated grace, refinement, and the kind of perfection that seemed destined to stand at Leeway's side. Amara's heart sank further as she thought that perhaps this was his real type, the kind of woman he truly belonged with. Momo, watching them as well, quietly remarked how good they looked together, as though they were made for each other. Jan's friend nodded in agreement, adding that everyone hoped they would marry soon because their love was obvious. The words made Amara's body grow hot with unease. She grabbed a drink and downed it in one breath, trying to steady herself. Momo asked if she was okay, and Amara forced a small nod, insisting she was fine. Across the room, Ming sat silently, his eyes drifting toward Yan and Leeway. Seeing them together made his heart ache, but if Yan was smiling, then that was enough for him. He reminded himself of how much he had always loved Leeway, and told himself that bringing Leeway to the gathering was the least he could do for her happiness. Meanwhile, Yan and Leeway sat close together in a quieter corner. Yan's heart ached as she confessed that she didn't want to be just friends anymore. She told him she was willing to stay by his side, regardless of his feelings, and would wait as long as it took for him to return to who he once was. Leeway, however, met her words with a calm firmness. He told her that friendship was all he could offer her at that moment, that he would always be there if she needed help, and that he bore no resentment toward her. He reminded her that feelings inevitably changed over time, that they had been teenagers when they first fell in love, and that adulthood had shifted everything. Even as he spoke, his gaze was drawn back to Amara. He noticed the way she kept downing drinks, and agitation stirred within him. Yan followed his line of sight and still believed he was watching Momo. Jealousy flared within her, and in an impulsive attempt to make Momo notice, she reached for Leeway's hand and clutched it tightly. But it was Amara, not Momo, who looked over, her heart breaking further at the sight. Leeway slowly pulled his hand free from Jan's grip and apologized softly, telling her he didn't want to hurt her any longer. With that, he stood and walked back toward the others. Scanning the seats, his eyes found the empty spot beside Amara. With deliberate intent, he moved toward it and sat down next to her. Amara, still upset, shifted slightly away, trying to put distance between them. Leeway glanced at her discreetly, and when their eyes finally met, his sharp gaze conveyed an unspoken demand for her to move closer. She turned away, refusing to yield, but he slipped his hand beneath the table and caught hers in his grasp. Amara glanced at him quickly, attempting to free her hand, but his hold tightened. His fingers brushed against hers in a slow, deliberate caress, his eyes softening as if pleading silently for her to let him hold on. Despite her anger and the confusion clouding her heart, a blush crept onto her face. Her resistance faltered, and she allowed him to keep her hand entwined with his beneath the table, hidden from everyone else's view. To the others, Leeway remained his usual cold and serious self, but Amara could feel the contrast, the secret tenderness he revealed only to her. It was that hidden sweetness, the private vulnerability he showed when no one else could see, that drove her mad. Even in his silence and guarded demeanor, he had a way of making her heart waver, pulling her deeper and deeper into the chaos of falling for him. Leeway and Amara sat beside each other with their hands clasped tightly beneath the table. As the group continued drinking and chatting, Leeway kept stealing glances at Amara, silently telling her with his eyes to control her alcohol intake. Amara, shyly smiling under his gaze, could not help but submit, drinking only in moderation. Yan, wanting to shift the mood, suddenly suggested they play a game of truth or dare. Her friend quickly agreed and added that instead of spinning a bottle, they should simply choose each other at random. With a playful smile, the friend turned to Yan, who sat beside her and asked her to begin. Yan looked around the room, her eyes scanning the group, until they landed on Momo. She asked Momo whom she would choose between Liwei and Ming if given the opportunity to date one of them. Caught off guard, Momo grew slightly uncomfortable. Her gaze flickered between Liwei and Ming before she cleared her throat and admitted that she would choose Ming. She explained that she thought he was cute, more of a gentleman and not rough. Ming laughed lightly at her response, teasingly asking if she was implying that Liwei was rough. Momo immediately shook her head, insisting that was not what she meant. Wanting to move the game along, she began searching for her next target. Her eyes finally settled on Liwei, who sat stern and detached. She asked how he felt about having so many women who seemed to be obsessing over him. Liwei, his face calm and unbothered, stated that he did not care. Yan quickly interjected, insisting that he was not the type of man who should even be asked such a question. Momo, slightly defensive, murmured that it was only a game. Now it was Liwei's turn. His sharp gaze fixed on Ming, and with deliberate calmness, he asked if Ming had ever secretly desired his friend's girlfriend. Ming panicked briefly at the sudden question, but quickly replied in denial. Liwei chuckled softly and took a sip of his drink, his composure unshaken. When the turn returned to Ming, his eyes shifted toward Yan. He asked if she would wait for Liwei or move on with her life if he ever chose to be with another woman instead of her. Yan, with unwavering confidence, declared that Liwei would never do such a thing. She reminded Ming that she and Liwei shared too many memories for him to suddenly forget her and move on. Amara, hearing this, felt a sharp pang of jealousy she couldn't control. She instinctively tried to pull her hand from Liwei's grip, but he refused to let go. His eyes, unyielding, communicated to her not to release him. Ming, amused, pressed Yan further, reminding her that she had not fully answered the question. Yan, still composed, explained that if the woman Liwei chose treated him well, then a good woman would let go because his happiness would matter more. She then turned her attention to Amara, wanting to stir the game even further. Yan dared Ming to kiss Amara. The moment those words left her lips, Liwei's chest tightened. Yan, her gaze unwavering, told Ming not to be boring, reminding him that it was only a game and that both he and Amara were single. Ming hesitated briefly before rising to his feet. Liwei's eyes followed him coldly as he walked toward them, his heart burning with fury. Ming looked at Amara and signaled for her to stand, but beneath the table, Liwei's grip on her hand tightened. His eyes commanded her to remain seated. Amara's eyes flickered between the two men. Yan's words echoed in her mind, reminding her that she was single. After all, Liwei was publicly with Yan, even flirting with her openly in front of her. A wave of upset washed over her. She forcefully pulled her hand free from Liwei's grasp and rose to her feet, standing before Ming. Liwei's expression grew visibly colder, his entire being rejecting the sight of another man approaching her. Ming leaned closer to Amara, the tension in the room thickening as everyone watched in anticipation. For Liwei, every second felt like torment. All he could think about was pulling her away and leaving with her. As Ming leaned in even closer, ready to press his lips to hers, Liwei could no longer contain his anguish. His body reacted before his mind could restrain it. He immediately shot to his feet.